What up, y'all? It's the Momentum Podcast.
Yeah, so what is that podcast called?
It's called like Momentum.
You know what I saw last night? The documentary, The You.
Part 2?
Yeah.
Let me get into that too.
Yeah, it was kind of like my prep. I hadn't seen it.
It's weak. I mean, it's lame because it has I didn't talk.
Yeah, that's because the entire second half was about you, so it was just people
well,
talking about you.
and I can tell you a little background story on that. Tell me, are we?
Yeah, we're going.
Like, so I was actually in solitary confinement
While they're recording that.
Yeah, and so Billy Corbin reached out to me and was trying to get me to talk, and I couldn't talk because I was locked in a box, solitary confinement, and I ended up there because a guy wrote an article about me in the Miami Herald, so I sent him a visit for him, told him to come say it to my face, right? So
they took that as a threat and they put you in solitary.
Well, he went to the
confinement.
U.S. Attorney's office for fear of his life and his family.
What'd you say in the letter?
Well, he just knew my background.
Right.
So I basically, called him a dick sucker, whatever. I still have the incident report. But anyway, so, it was a bad situation for me. But anyway, from what I was told is that ESPN wanted nothing to do with the 30 for 30 unless I was part of it. Because who cares about the U part 2? Unless you're a University of Miami fan.
Right.
So the whole premise of that part 2 was for my scandal. So if you see when they were previewing it, I'm walking around the prison yard and I got dudes running up to me. They started prepping and advertising it, marketing it for 3 weeks. They're like, yo, Shapiro, you're about to be on ESPN 30 for 30. I'm like, yeah, how do you know?
Right.
They're like, man, this and that. And then all of a sudden I started getting letters about, my attorney was reading them to me. Like Billy Corbin was trying to interview me and this and that, but
you couldn't.
There was no access. I couldn't talk to my own parents for a year.
Whoa. How
They took
long?
my
How long
phone-
were you
they-
in solitary confinement?
Almost 6 months, and they took my phone privileges. Like I listened to the Florida State Auburn national title game like on a saltine cracker box made stereo.
Whoa. Whoa. You made a stereo out
Well,
of...
I didn't make anything, but
Like people
dudes are pretty creative, man, inside.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, like, I literally went to the shoe the day before Miami played FSU when Jameis Winston was the quarterback for FSU.
Yeah.
Miami was undefeated. They were both 7-0, so it was 2013. And I had to ask the cop next door because I hadn't gotten my stereo in working order yet. And so I had to find out who won.
Yeah.
I think Duke Johnson broke his ankle in the second half, and that was it.
What year was that?
2013.
2013. Yeah.
Yeah, you could say, and I'm a machine on dates, and like I'm like Rain Man when it comes to that shit. So like I don't need notes. I know where I was. I just go by schedule. I can tell you who Miami lost to, when they lost to, and why they lost.
Right.
Probably over the last 40 years.
Yeah. Damn. So how did it all start?
Well, I don't want to bore your listeners, but I moved from Brooklyn. So I'm 55 years old. I moved from Brooklyn when I was 6 years old. So 1975, I moved to Miami. And, I just became a football fan. The first game I ever went to was Super Bowl 10, the Dallas Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Whoa.
And I became a lifelong Steeler fan.
Was this in New York?
This was in Miami in the Orange Bowl.
When you first moved here?
Yeah, 3 months later, I became I went to see my first football game. So the Super Bowl was like at 1:30 afternoon back then. Like it wasn't like what it is today. And I fell in love with the black and gold, with the color. And I was a diehard Steeler fan. But anyway, as I began to start playing Optimus football, Pee Wee football, 75-pounders, 85-pounders, they would give us tickets, like 40 of us, to the University of Miami game, and there'd be like 3,000 fans in the Orange Bowl.
Yeah.
So we're in our pads and in the West End zone, and it's empty.
Yeah.
And like to us, it was like really cool.
So those were the bad years of Miami.
Horrible. Yeah. So when
Was
I
it
was
way before Schnellenberger?
Schnellenberger was actually the coach Lou Saban was the coach, but I think Schnellenberger just became the coach.
Okay.
Schnellenberger is the one who really turned it around.
Yeah.
Like, that's who turned it around. Like, there's no maybe. And Jimmy Johnson took us to, like,
new heights after that.
Gangster level, mean, fucking the whole world, us versus the world.
Yeah.
But Miami was like a great story prior to that. So when Jim Kelly was like the first real great athlete that I witnessed at the University of Miami. There were a few All-Americans prior to that. Ted Hendricks, Chuck Foreman, Reuben Carter. So there were some guys that were really good, Freddie Marion. And but like the first big star that really evolved was Jim Kelly. And I was there in 1980. They beat Penn State. Well, they had beaten Penn State on the road, which was a major upset. And it was a crazy story because Jim Kelly was Joe Paterno, who was the Penn State coach and legend, had offered Kelly a scholarship, but only at linebacker.
Whoa,
and Kelly
linebacker?
said that's how big Kelly was.
How big is he?
6'5". He's a monster. 6'4", 230. Like, he was a monster and a tough cat. And so he said, nah, I'm playing quarterback. And so it was the best thing he ever did, obviously. So he went to Miami, and then we ended up beating Penn State like the following year. We beat them like back-to-back years. Penn State was top 5.
Yeah.
Miami wasn't anything to speak of. And, but anyway, that's when I started like.
Those were like your formative years.
Those were my formative years.
You're growing up watching this team develop into what it became.
Yeah. And well, actually, the real takeoff point, and I think any Miami fan who, you know, pre-millennial would say this, the Miami fan base really fell in love with the program in '83 when we shocked Nebraska. And that's when Bernie Kosar was a freshman.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that. And like, you know, Miami lost the first game of the year to Florida and 28-3, I think. They just got beat down. It was, and like, you know, it was just going to be like a 6-5, 7-4 year. You know, you cheer for the team, this and that. But all of a sudden they start reeling up. They beat Notre Dame early in the season. And at the time that was like a big deal. And so next thing you know, they win. Next thing you know, they're like 7-1 and like they're ranked and people just can't even believe they're ranked. And man, we ended up in the Orange Bowl against Nebraska. And this is way before the BCS and everything. And like crazy, we were ranked 5. Crazy things had to happen. I think Illinois was ranked 4. They had to lose. Texas had to lose. 3 teams had to lose. And we were playing Nebraska, and we were like a 14 to 17 point underdog at home.
Wow.
Nebraska was loaded.
Yeah.
Turner Gill, man, they were scoring 100 points a game. I mean, they were just.
Yeah, they had a dynasty.
Man, they had Mike Rozier was the Heisman Trophy winner, and you know, we shocked the world, man, and it was fucking awesome, man. Like, I'll just never forget being on the just running. It was.
So that was the start.
I'm 14 years old, 15 years old. Man, just my buddy and I, we got a ticket. I think we paid like $30, man. I was sitting like the top, man, I was freezing, man. But it was so wild. And it really was, that game was the coming of age of the Orange Bowl, which was a total fucking shithole. But Miami was unbeatable there.
Yeah.
And that place was just, man, if anyone who's from down here really knows, man, when you walked into that place, man, it was a snake pit. It was the only time, like, really, man, where everyone was unified. The blacks, the whites, the Hispanics, all the different nationalities and ethnicities. It was just one big zoo against the opponent.
Yeah.
And, you know, people are wild in Miami, man. You know, they don't hold back. It ain't like the Midwest where people are nice and like Nebraska fans are shaking.
Kind of wild sometimes.
Nebraska fans are like shaking your hands. Oklahoma fans are shaking your hands. Good game, golly wally, and all this. Man, we were like, yo, fuck you, eat shit, drop dead. Oh, man, it was a fucking zoo.
Yeah.
It was just a zoo of an atmosphere.
Well, I learned yesterday, 2000 through 2002 season. Oh, the camera.
Sorry. No, you're good. Sorry. I move around a lot. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, just make sure you don't. Can you look up on the screen to see if it's still?
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. Or we could have Mario probably come back. You can stay seated. Stay seated. Hey, Mark, do you mind helping up 1 second?
Yeah, my hands flail a lot.
You're good. You're good. Do you mind looking at that screen
behind here.
back there? Because it kind of got jolted a little bit. Just make sure it's still centered.
Yeah, you. Okay. Yeah, I think you're fine right there.
I'm still in it? Okay, all good. Thank you. No, I was saying yesterday when I was watching the doc, I didn't realize, was it 2000 through 2002, those 3 seasons, the point margin at home in the Orange Bowl was like 350 to somewhere in the teens, like 15 or 17
well,
points.
we put
it was insane.
That 2001
it was like a 30
team,
something.
like that 2001 team specifically, we put 3 beatings in a row on Washington, Syracuse, and I think BC, where we gave up literally a touchdown and scored 55 or more in each game.
Yeah, that's the year that Ed Reed had that halftime speech, right? Where he's like,
That
I'm
was
hurt,
the one-
dog.
that
They're
was the
up
one-
against Florida State.
Yeah, that was against Florida State, and man, we were loaded. Really, and we were loaded the year before.
Well, 2000,
We got robbed.
they beat the number 1 and number 2 team in the country.
We got robbed in that game.
That BCS model was insane.
Listen, here's the bottom line.
And then 2003 was the pass, or no, 2002 was the pass interference against
Yeah.
Hasan. So it could have been easily 3 in a row.
Should have been.
Easily could have.
First of all, we win the 2000 team. We lost at Washington, second game this season. If that game had another 30 seconds in it, we beat Washington.
Yeah.
That was Dorsey's only loss as a starter until Ohio State beat him in 2000.
It was a close loss too, wasn't it?
34-29.
Yeah.
Like I got this
Dang,
shit.
you got this
Man,
all.
listen, there's nobody, and I mean nobody watching this or who's going to watch this that's going to go toe to toe with me with knowledge on the U. Period.
Well, so let me rewind real quick.
DNA and everything on individuals.
So you were saying that 83 season, you got hooked. You were 14, or even before then. Like, did you know at that point, like, I want to be involved in this program?
No, nobody had any idea what they were about to witness. Nobody had any idea. Miami went from darlings, a beautiful underdog story, like a real Rudy type story.
Right.
Not to use a
The
Notre Dame
underdog
reference.
Right.
To the most hated team in America.
Yeah.
And that was born out of Jimmy Johnson allowing these dudes to really play. And once we got our funk going, like, we should have won 5-6 titles, man. Like, period. Like, in all honesty, Testaverde was an incredible quarterback. He just choked in 2 major game day championships, or else we would have won the title in 85 and Penn State in 86. And I'm going to go on record and say, and I happen to know a lot of guys from that 86 team, the greatest team in college football history is that 86 team.
You think they're better than the 2001 team?
They would have pounded the shit out of that team.
That's a hot take.
That's a hot take. It's a smoking take. And the guys from 86 will tell you that. Now,
Was that Michael Irvin's team?
Michael Irvin's team.
Yeah.
Now, you would say, well, we got beat. Man, I still haven't gotten over that loss to Penn State when we lost 14-10. Testaverde got picked off 5 times. He had gotten into a scooter accident between like Thanksgiving recess, Christmas recess, and the day of the game. And Jeff Toretta was the backup. Gino Toretta's older brother. We were so loaded. Testaverde cost us that game, man. 5 interceptions.
Because he was playing injured.
6 interceptions. I don't know if he was playing injured or if he was playing blind. He was playing catch with the other team. And all I can tell you is, man, we should have beat that team's ass. Like, it's to this day, it's the biggest upset in college football history, in my opinion. Yeah. That team was fucking stacked.
Was
and
that
nasty.
the Uncle Luke era where he was allegedly, involved with all that?
Yeah.
And then you came in like early 2000s.
I came in 2001.
That's when you started like your first kind of
my first, but I was close to the program for many, many
Before
years.
that.
Prior, through a very dear friend of mine, actually the grandson of the Hecht Athletic Center.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
you knew him and then he kind of plugged you in.
well, I was on his tickets forever.
I got you.
He had like, press box seats. I was like on the field when Miami beat Notre Dame 58-7, and Ara Parsegan was calling Miami bunch of scumbags, bunch of thugs, creeps, this, that. And it turned into like, he would have been canceled in today's culture as a broadcaster.
A lot of people would.
Oh, yeah. And fuck, everyone hated us, man. But it was us against the world, man. And that's how it really began. And it was Jimmy Johnson. The truth of the matter is, we got robbed in that title in 87. That wasn't a fumble with Cleveland Gary. I mean, Miami should be sitting right now on 10, 15 titles right now, confidently. And anyone who's really a diehard U fan knows it. If Butch Davis doesn't leave to go to the NFL, to Cleveland, and I've had these conversations with a number of people very close, man, Miami's Bama, what Bama became.
Yeah.
Miami's what Bama became.
He walked out at a weird point, too.
Well, Miami didn't have money.
He built it just before it was about to take off.
Listen,
like that 2002 team, one team, anyone could have coached.
Listen, here's the bottom line. Larry Coker was like Brewster's Millions. He just inherited. Yeah, it's a movie before.
I was like, what?
It was a Richard Pryor movie. Larry Coker was just like a good old boy.
Anyone could have coached that team, yeah.
And he just found out that he inherited like the pick six.
Well, that's what like Ed and those guys were saying in the doc. It was like they were coaching themselves. Like sometimes the coaches wouldn't even be on the field for workouts or practice.
Listen,
like they were regulating everything on their own.
Ed Reed ran the defense, Dorsey ran the offense, and Larry Coker was the chaperone to the games.
Yeah.
Like they needed someone to chaperone them because they weren't of age to drive.
Right.
That's how that went.
Yeah.
I mean, you right now could have walked on that field, blown a whistle, and the players just ran.
Literally.
The inmates, no pun intended, were running the asylum. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it wasn't an asylum. We were just loaded, and we were on point, and we knew we got robbed the year before, and there was just no doubt. It was title or bust.
They were coming for sure, yeah.
And the motto was from Happy Valley to Pasadena. We all had the shirts. It started at Penn State, it ended in Pasadena.
Yeah.
And that's how it went. And everybody knew it. It was expected. Yeah. And from a greatest team of all time standpoint, if you want to factor in NFL careers and whatnot, the Miami team 2001, almost impossible to compare anybody to.
Well, I saw you right there with him running out the tunnel in the dock.
Twice. Well, let me tell you how that came about.
Yeah.
So, and one of the points I'd love to make is, I see a lot of commentary about me. And, I understand the hate and everything. I catch it. I get it, this and that. But there was this misconception that, like, I was taking stolen investor money to buy. My problems financially with my lenders began in 2008. I was worth well over $200 million by the time I was 34 years old. So if you want to go back in time, that was 2003. So I wasn't funding anything with with other investors' money.
With investors' money.
With lenders' money. I was doing this because of my passion and love for the program. So in that one scene where you could see me clapping outside the tunnel, that happened to be the game against Florida, which was the opening game when Brock Berlin was our quarterback. Hester takes the opening kickoff, 98 yards for a touchdown. So I had just donated $250,000 at the first TV timeout to the program. That was my money. That wasn't
non-investor money.
That was not lender money. None of my money was. None of my money was. And the only time at the end, before I had my legal situation, one of my lenders wanted to actually pay for the basketball banquet. So, everyone's got an opinion, this and that, but at the end of the day, nobody really knows shit. Like, I'm standing on receipts and facts and everything else, and inevitably my documentary's coming out the way not the you part two, but the real you behind the eye of the hurricane. I was the eye of this storm.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it. The players all know it. I understand why they didn't come out and say whatever it is. They had money to protect, but I'm going to give you a massive smoking hot take for this podcast because I have not spoken before.
Yep.
Why did the Miami situation even take place? When I had to surrender to the feds, and I can't talk about my crime because there's a documentary being done, and I'm telling you now and all your listeners, I'll be vindicated and exonerated, even though I pled guilty, because I was forced to plead guilty. by the government. That's for my story to be told. And that's going to come out. But the reason why that whole shit blew up between me and Miami is because when I got my discovery evidence, which you get when you're charged with a crime and you get indicted, 47 players were ready to testify against me. Now, nobody knows that, but I know that. And it broke my heart, and it put a knife right through my heart. The U's built on family, and I don't have any animosity or ill will. That was a time, and I'd be happy to evolve into it as we talk.
Yeah.
I got love for the U, man, and that was a really unfortunate situation, but that shit broke my heart, man. And players that, like, I helped get to where they got to, not because I gave them their talent, but there were a number of players that never see the NFL if not for me.
In what way?
They were ready to quit. There was a number of guys that were ready to quit, walk off, and I can go one by one through each player individually who had certain circumstances and whatnot. And, when people rag hard on me and I read the shit that's being said, oh, he was just throwing yacht parties. You got to understand, I was only 9 years older than these guys when I started. So our age difference, I just happened to be loaded financially.
Yeah.
So our age difference was not so far. They were like little brothers to me. And when we were, there were a number of situations. I will say this, the 2001 team, I had gotten involved already when that team was already basically built. But my relationships began with the players through that team. And my first, the first guys that I really got tight with was that D line: Cornelius Green, Andrew Williams, Jerome McDougal.
Will Fork? Well, he came
Will
after?
Fork was one of those guys, but he was a Prop 48 player.
What's that?
In those days, Prop 48, if you didn't have the right grades, they sat you for your freshman year.
Okay.
That rule changed. That
was kind of like a red shirt kind of.
It was a stupid rule.
Right.
Yeah, it didn't last long, but he was part of that situation. And
okay, so they start investigating the company, and then that's when you hear all the players are going to testify against you.
Well, no, I had been already locked up.
Oh.
When I learned of that, I had already been locked up. So my one major misperception, so let me point it out for you and your listeners. People think I went away because of the University of Miami story. I went away for a $930 million money laundering charge. They were going to charge me with the RICO Act, the kingpin of a criminal enterprise.
Yeah.
They called it a Ponzi scheme, but there's no such thing as a Ponzi scheme as far as getting charged by law. It was money laundering and securities fraud.
Technical term.
Yeah, it was money laundering.
Yeah.
The sexy term was Ponzi scheme.
So money laundering, essentially taking investor funds and then paying other investors with that money.
But money's made illicitly is basically what it is.
Yeah.
Illegal monies. The securities fraud is what is how they talk. That's how it's tied into the well, they weren't investors of mine, just so you know.
What were they?
They were lenders.
Okay.
I could have taken $1 zillion and done whatever I want, but I can't really get into the details of it because that's going to come out in my documentary and inevitably a scripted series, and it's a very, very deep story.
Right.
And I'll be exonerated when it's over. I'm fair. If I went to trial today, I would kick the government's ass on the same case.
So what's different now than back then?
Well, I learned everything that was done to me illegally by the government, and
you're not able to get into that.
I can't.
Okay.
The time is not now.
That's fair.
It's gonna. I've already done the time, so it's not I'm gonna let them. I pled for 10 years.
Yeah.
They gave me 20.
Yeah.
So the whole narrative that snitches get stitches. Let me tell you something. Where I was, if I was a rat, I would have gotten beat the fuck down, kicked. I would have been sleeping.
Yeah, because snitches get it the worst in prison, right?
Snitches and child molesters. They're called chomos in prison.
Yeah.
So this whole snitches with stitches. Listen, I got 10.
So they didn't see you as snitch in prison?
No, hardly. They knew the paperwork. They read your paperwork.
Oh, because everyone sees it when you go to prison?
It's the unwritten rule, man. They're going to find out if you're hot, you're getting beat up or whatever. Whatever's coming's coming. I really can't talk right now because I'm technically in custody about what it goes on inside. But I can tell you this. All these guys that are talking rat, they wouldn't say that to my face inside.
Right.
There'd be a consequence.
Okay.
They wouldn't say it inside. I'm just telling you, they wouldn't say it inside.
Yeah.
It was known.
Okay, so it was known that you weren't.
Of course.
Yeah.
I pled for 10. She gave me 20 years. If I was a rat, what did I do? Tell against myself and get twice the time I pled for?
Did you tell against the players, though?
The players had nothing to do with it. That was a civil matter, the University of Miami.
No, I was saying with like the NCAA infractions and that kind of stuff.
That all came about because I'm defending myself, and it became one or two players started making comments.
Yeah. But some guys got suspended, though, the next year, right?
Yeah, and by the way,
was it because of that?
I'm close with almost all those guys today. And that one point is something that I regret tremendously. You know, when you're...
Regret what?
I regret that those guys had, like Olivier Vernon, Ray Armstrong, Dyron Dye, Ja'Cory Harris. You know, there were a couple of other dudes. Like, those guys weren't the reason for my anger and venom. They just weren't. And it was really the older guys from like the 2001, 2002, 2003, 2000, because I did a lot for those guys, but I just felt so betrayed. It would be like your brother talking to the feds about you.
Yeah.
How would you take that?
You felt betrayed.
I was.
Yeah.
I didn't feel betrayed. I was.
Yeah. So why did the new guys get in trouble then?
Because once I just started talking about the whole thing, I was really defending my credibility because I was trying to fight my sentence.
Yeah.
In legal terms, it's a 2255 motion. So it's a motion to vacate your sentence. My attorney was terrible because my primary attorneys I had paid a ridiculous amount of money to, and they sold me to the government. I can't get into that whole story because it takes me into it. It's hard to avoid it because it takes me into it.
Right.
And there's so many layers of the story. But like anybody who doesn't think that like I was the pulse behind the University of Miami, they're smoking crack because there's not one player from 2001 to 2010 that would tell you otherwise under a jury mic.
Right.
Where perjury, you go to prison. Not one. Yeah. So, you know, it's interesting. And I have love for the U, man. Like,
but how do you balance that, right? Because you're like kind of the biggest Miami fan or amongst the biggest, right? And then, you know, the program went through a hard time after all of that. Yeah. And then a lot of fans feel some type of way with you as well. So how does all that kind of balance together?
Yeah, well, you know, I think that's a good question. And I'm going to give you like just the most, it's not even the most politically correct answer. I'm just going to give you the best answer. Just as candid as possible. I don't blame the people for feeling that way towards me.
The fans.
I mean, you know, listen, fuck this guy. He's a fucking scumbag. I'd feel the same way.
Right.
And be worse. If someone like me was putting their team under the...
You'd be pissed at yourself outside looking in. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But nobody walked my shoes. You can't tell someone how to tie their laces if they've never walked in your shoes.
Yeah.
And this cut deep, man.
Yeah.
This cut deep. And I do have some regrets because as I've gotten older, I've looked back at like that guy who was firing.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of hurt and pain and anger. And there's a lot of things that I wish I didn't say. I will say. That's how I feel today. And that whole Miami thing was like a internal family brawl that should have stayed in-house.
Yeah.
That's really what it was. And to answer your question very directly, I'm not the reason Miami sucked because of my circumstances.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me give you
the probation and like the 3-year investigation.
They lost 9 scholarships and listen, that was just part of it. Hurt to some degree. But let me just tell you something. That program was on a nosedive when Butch Davis left.
For sure.
Let me give you facts. Let me give you facts. I was their recruiter. Like, I was their recruiter.
Okay, walk me through that. What do you mean by that?
So once I got onto the scene.
Mm-hmm. So 2001, you pull up.
I pull up. My real takeoff was that 2002 team that lost to Ohio State.
Yep.
I don't want to use the word infiltrated, but I infiltrated, for lack of a better term.
It's like a Navy SEAL drop.
Yeah, man. I infiltrated the program, but
11.
Like there was this narrative about me that like I was a jock sniffer and I was just a hanger on. Let me be clear. I was worth over $200 million. Audited tax statement. 2 of the biggest accounting firms in America.
And at this point, this is all legit money. This is
all legit. I was a wealthy guy. I could have retired at 32, 33, 34 years old.
Gotcha.
Like, let me be clear about it. Anyone who says otherwise, I got papers. I'll show up any office, and including my lenders.
This is at 32 years old?
32 years old.
That's a crazy amount. I
was very successful.
32 in Miami. You have access to the greatest football team. I mean, you were just living life. Like, it was like kind of like a Tony Montana, Scarface.
Hugh Hefner.
Yeah.
With swag.
Right.
Like with swag.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh, he's a midget. I'm 5'5.5". I could play ball. My flag football skills are legendary. Anyone who's played with me knows it. I've had Devin Hester and Antrell Roll and DJ play on a flag football game with me while they're at the U. Okay? Like in a city league. Like, it's not maybe. Like, these are facts.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not just sitting here dropping. I don't need notes. I don't need this and that. I'm the Rain Man when it comes to my memory.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was worth a lot of money. And these kids, I was a big deal to them. They weren't a big deal to me.
Right.
To be clear.
But you like the football player, like the football program.
I loved it.
Maybe it was mutual.
I loved the U. No, I was a crazy fan.
Yeah.
But if you came to play for the U, I had you. In other words, I wasn't buying you to come to the U. I knew when guys were not coming, but trying to get the free ride while they were here on their visit.
Yeah.
And I was with one of them when I was locked up, D. Webb, who was top 5 nationally at his position, cornerback. Mm-hmm. And he said, man, if I would have came to Miami, man, I'd have flunked out being near you in the first month. Like, we used to laugh about it walking around the prison yard. And he, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No schoolwork was getting done during that era.
I mean, you know.
Partying with you.
Listen, man.
Practice, all that. There's no way.
And I watched that ESPN 30 for 30, man. That was fucking bullshit, man. That was,
what did they get wrong?
Well, everything. I mean, John Vilma said, what was it, $1 lap dance? Listen, the
$1 lap dance.
No, he was like, oh, what was it, $1 lap? Let me tell you something. The women that I had in my world for these players, these women were $2,000 a night. These weren't dollar like strippers, like at the Porthole pub.
Right.
Like, you're talking about, like, you know, everyone looked like Sofia Vergara.
Top of the line.
The best Miami could offer.
Yeah.
Okay. So you had to be a special chosen one to get into that circle. Like, if you were a scout team player,
you weren't.
You were touching a $200 an hour girl. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that was just on general principle, because I couldn't leave you in the cold.
Yeah. No, I got you.
If you were a first round pick,
Ed Reed's got, top of the top. Allegedly.
He man, everyone's got a story. You know what I mean? Like, they know. These guys all know.
So, okay. Why was he trying to disparage you? Just to make you look bad? Vilma. Yeah,
well, Vilma, and let me just say this about John Vilma. And, I'll speak about any player you want. John Vilma is very cerebral. I think he's an excellent NFL analyst.
Yeah, he does a good job.
I think he's excellent. He was the quarterback of that defense, and he was see, Vilma had that underdog mentality where he didn't have that big hype coming in. Dan Morgan was there right before him. He played behind him. But Vilma was the heart and soul of that defense. Make no mistake about it. He ran that shit. Specifically, when Ed Reed left, Vilma ran that. But he was a hater. You know, you look at these guys with their helmets on and, you know, they're supermen. But I could tell you who was, you know, a good guy and who was a fucking scumbag. Would, you know, jack his own mother for $100 bill. Yeah. Like I know where the bodies are buried. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can't fake the funk with me. Yeah. I know every skeleton in every closet on all of these kids. All of them. And, you know, people could think what they want, but it's just the truth. I wasn't a booster. I was the CEO of that program. There's a difference. Some guys write checks. Other guys get involved personally. And there were guys that were about to get kicked off the team. And I could give you so many examples that we'd be here all night. And
what does CEO mean?
CEO?
Yeah.
Chief Executive Officer.
No, I know what it stands for, but I'm in terms of within a football program. Because I think outside looking in, people just see the parties and you know, you guys are clubbing, maybe you're paying dudes to come in, all this kind of stuff. But you're saying it goes way deeper than that.
Oh, way deeper.
What does that mean?
Okay, so for example, Devin Hester. Let's use him as a prime example. Going to the Hall of Fame. Greatest kick returner of all time. You can't even say argumentatively. He is.
Yeah.
Okay? They changed the kickoff rule because of this kid. He was about to quit. I spotted him, and I'm about to do something in his honor. Okay?
Wait, what? What do you mean?
I'm about to put out an IG feed in his honor in the next 2 weeks.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah. In his honor for being named to Canton.
Okay.
So I will point blank tell you that I didn't give Devin Hester his athletic ability, but he don't see the field if not for me. And that's a fact. He can deny it.
What do you mean?
He was ready to quit.
From Miami.
Quit. They were giving him problems. They were questioning whether it was his ACT score. He was on his way to Purdue at that time.
He's going to transfer to Purdue.
He was going to Purdue initially before he committed to the University of Miami.
Oh, okay.
I take him under my wing. I see him sitting there like a lost puppy outside Larry Coker's office. They were basically trying to make him quit.
Yeah.
Okay? They were trying to make him quit. Now, a situation happened. He breaks out against Florida, 98-yard touchdown kickoff. The first time he ever touched the ball was, I think, they played Louisiana Tech. He had a 54-yard kick return. First time he ever touched the ball. Anyway, he calls me up one morning. He's ready to quit. He could dispute it, but he wouldn't sit in front of a table, right, me, and have a podcast with me and say this because he knows otherwise. And so does everyone who was around him knows otherwise. Yeah. He calls me up one morning, 6 a.m., I'm quitting. They got their workouts. I think it was a Tuesday morning. I got to go to work. I put on my black pinstripe suit, like my real, like, boss suit, even though I had many. And I go to the Hecht. I see Swayze, the strength and conditioning coach. All the players like, yo, Nev, what's up, man? What are you doing here so early? But I knew Hester was about to quit. And I said, Swayze, let me ask you a question. And, you know, Swayze had a lot of respect. The players really respect him. He was a strength and conditioning guy. I don't know who got rid of him. I don't know if it was Manny Diaz or Mario Cristobal. But he was there a long time. And he had he had the respect. And all you had to do was go to the banquets, and everyone was thanking him. Because the Miami off-season program is really what built these guys into killers on the football field. Walk up to Swede and say, hey, man, what's going on? He said, hey, Ned, what are you doing here, man? I say, hey, yo, is Hester doing his workout? Like, is he putting in work? Yeah, man, he's up to whatever, blah, blah, blah. And keep in mind, Devin didn't have a position. He was trying to play corner, trying to play receiver. You know, just, he was really like.
Just an athlete. Yeah, he played all around.
He was just, that dude just had to be on the field.
Yeah.
Bro, he was Reggie Bush like.
Yeah.
Okay? There's no separation. Okay? And I knew it. And I say, hey, man, get Coker. He's like, for what? I said, man, just get Coker. And I probably overstepped my britches, but like I was fighting for those kids because I knew what was going on. Because I was starting to witness what was going on at the program. Larry Coker really was the perfect coach to stand in temporarily so we could get that title in 2001, but they really should have gone another route because he wasn't built for the long run.
Yeah.
So, and anyone who would say otherwise would just be lying. Former players and otherwise. Nice man, though. Coach comes out, Nevin, hey, how you doing? This and that. I go, Coach, let me ask a question. What's going on with Devin Hasan? He's like, I don't understand. What do you mean? I said, yeah. Why is he sitting on the bench? You got a Ferrari, but you're driving a Ford. You got a Ferrari in the garage. What are you doing? Well, I'm not, Devin, you're a booster. I don't even know why I have to answer you. I said, Coach, if that kid don't see the field, I'm turning off the faucets. I don't know if he knew what I mean or didn't, but his assistant coaches knew.
I'm sure he knew. Yeah.
Okay. I get a call later that afternoon from Devin. Guess who's starting kick returner and punt returner? I go, let me guess. You? Devin takes 2 punts. You could check it out. At home against Louisiana Tech, 2004. 2 punt returns for a touchdown. Following week, he had another punt return for a touchdown or like a 78-yarder. And then right after that, 2 weeks later, goes 108 yards from the back of the end zone.
Jeez.
Against on ESPN against NC State. Oh, Louisville was the week or two before. He had like 300 total yards plus a touchdown called back. Mm-hmm. So he had a punt return touchdown, had a kick return called back, and still ended up with like 300 yards.
Monster. Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, Deion Sanders reaches out to him. And that's how the relationship began with Deion and Devin. Because Deion was trying to position Eugene Parker, his agent, to get behind Devin, who he did, by the way.
They signed the same agent.
Yeah. So if not for me getting involved in Devin's life,
you helped him out.
Saved his life. What would he been doing? Played football. That's it. He became the best of all time. He went to Canton, Ohio. You don't see the field. So whatever he's doing in life, he's not playing football.
So was it at that point you realized, hey, I have more control than I thought? Like I can call the shots.
It was just a natural.
Was that kind of the first instance of like I can make personnel decisions?
It was one example, but it was really, I had a real deep relationship with Devin at that time. And, once Devin announced he was going pro, and there's a story, like I'm not really thrilled about how it went with him and I, but after
he turned on you?
He did. But he turned on everyone.
Really?
It wasn't just me.
Like everyone around him?
Yeah. And, he's the greatest kick returner of all time. It's impossible to say otherwise. I wouldn't. Yeah. But, he just, he didn't have they called him Hurricane Hester and this and that. But believe me, he had a rocky road at the U, man. And I'm the reason why he went pro. He called me after they lost to LSU in the Peach Bowl. They got off the plane 2 a.m, 3 a.m. He came to see me. Whenever they lost, December 31st, I think 2005, they lost to LSU 40-3. Coker had promised them they were going to play him offense, defense, kick return, punt return, but they were getting crushed. So he came to see me. We met at David's Cafe in Miami Beach on Lincoln Road at like 6:30 a.m., 7 a.m.
Damn.
And I said, yo, you got to go pro, bro. Yeah. With your speed, your natural ability, worst case, 3rd round pick, maybe 2nd. Became a 2nd round pick. Kid looked so lost, devastated, defeated. I never heard from him again.
Really?
Announced he's going pro. Never heard from him again. Reached out to him a number of times through people. Never heard from him again.
Was it like after the investigation and all that?
No investigation, nothing.
Yeah.
2005.
Yeah.
Last day of 2005. I think the last time I spoke to him was like first week of 2006. Yeah. Goes to Chicago, returns the kick for a touchdown, opening kickoff. And the crazy thing is, the irony.
Yeah, rookie year, right? Yeah.
Rookie year.
Yeah.
In the Super Bowl. I'm sitting in the end zone.
I remember that. Oh,
I'm sitting in the end zone. He's
No
running
way.
right to me.
Oh, that's insane. First play.
First play of the game.
Yeah. Dang, that's crazy.
Yeah. True story, man. And there's 100 of them.
Yeah.
That's just one. So when people say, fucking stay away from the program, this and that, yeah. If I would have stayed away from the program, you guys wouldn't have had a fucking title. There's a reason why they've sucked for 20 years. There's a reason.
Yeah.
I'm part of that reason. Not because of the investigation, because I wasn't there making things happen. See, there's a lot of guys that didn't go to the league or become first-round picks or Hall of Famers that would be happy to talk about what my role was inside. Happy. See, the guys made their money. I'm not bitter about it. But don't say I wasn't there. You know what the role was.
Yeah. Well, the crazy thing is that's all illegal in terms of NCAA now with the NIL.
Listen,
Besides
I said it.
the prostitution and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, they didn't have anything to do with the prostitution. They were
Yeah.
Those
And the
situations.
bounty, the bounty's not.
You know, there were some.
But the money itself, that's a huge. Oh, I mean, it's always been a big part of college football, but now it's open and legal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, you know, when I sat down with the NCAA, they put a lot of this stuff. They buried it because my main focus was to get these kids paid. And I said, if you don't like Mark Emmert would not respond to me. And I was talking to all of his subordinates around him, right under him. They fired the entire enforcement team and they came up with, you know, my attorney didn't do anything illegal.
I read about that. Can you explain it? Because what Billy Corbin said was something about your attorney was working with the NCAA and he was billing the NCAA. Let me be real.
She has that right. She's in business. Yeah. The NCAA paid her to do. She wasn't going to work for free.
Right.
So she was handling the bank. I was put into involuntary bankruptcy. So she was defending and I was assisting the trustee in getting and recovering the money. And for the record, my restitution was $82,657,000. Damn. Now this is for all of your viewers.
82 mil?
I recovered all the money.
All of it?
All of it. Because it was never a real number to begin with. I can document it. It's
What do you mean it wasn't a real number?
Like it wasn't a real number. The guy who robbed, I can't really get into the details, but the guy who actually stole the money was the government informant, and the government protected him.
This goes deep.
This is way deep. I'm not guilty.
Government informant.
I'm not guilty. I pled guilty, but I'm not guilty. I have blame, and I do have fault in this, but I'm not guilty for the crime they charged me with.
So you did something different.
It's going to be proven. It's going to be proven.
Yeah. You're not really allowed to go into.
I can't go into any detail on it right now.
Yeah.
But let me just tell you, I recovered all the money. In fact, they owe me money. Damn. Now I got to have massive balls to say this on your podcast. And I'm saying, I'll look right into the camera. The government knows what they did. So everyone's, pay back the money, Papa. I did.
So everyone got their money back?
No.
Oh.
Someone kept it. I can't get into it.
No, you're good. You're good. I understand. There's cases involved. There's There's a lot of legalities.
The whole narrative of me is just off. Let me just speak real quick on this 30 for 30 part 2.
Yeah.
Because we've been through the Netflix, HBOs, and all these other of the world. Okay? And they think the story's been told. That story's never been told. Let me be clear. That University of Miami story has never been told. Billy Corbin did, and I don't have anything against Billy Corbin. There's no hate.
You don't?
No.
I would if someone said a bunch of false things about me.
You know, listen, you know, he was selling his documentary. You know what I mean?
I guess, but
the truth of the matter is,
under false pretenses.
Not to say,
Assuming it's false.
not to say it was the Disney version because Disney owns ESPN, but that was like the Disney version. But that was the Disney version.
Yeah.
Like mine's like the Power and the BMF version.
Yeah.
Like this is what it really was. Like if people want to see that,
What was it really like then?
man, it was a fucking Wild West, man. That shit, I was running that motherfucker. That's it. You couldn't play games. I mean,
But paint a picture for me,
like okay,
'cause
so
I don't know.
Like if we wanted to recruit, we got him.
And so
If we wanted to recruit,
so Larry
we got
Coker
him.
goes to you. He's like, we want this
Coker
guy
didn't
out
go.
of Mississippi. Nevin, do your thing. Is that how it goes?
Coker and I had zero conversations.
So someone, a different guy,
There
an
were-
assistant
there were-
coach
there
goes
were
to you.
assistant coaches, the recruiting coordinator,
He calls you up, Nevin, we want this guy.
or they would deliver the message through the players, and the players would be like, "Yo, we're bringing this guy out. We're hosting him. We need to bring this dude."
Well,
this
someone,
dude.
it doesn't matter who it is. Someone.
All right, so here
goes
I'm going to
to-
give you a story. Let me give you a story.
Give it
How's
to
that?
me. I love that.
All right. So 2005, there's a receiver. I'll give some hints. Without, I'm not
See
saying
if I
his
can guess
name.
him.
I won't answer
All
if
right,
you
all
guess
right.
him.
Well, I don't want to
because
get anyone in trouble.
I don't want to put him
wanna-
on the spot. There's a top 5, top 10 player
Coming out of high school.
coming out of high school
Okay.
from the state of Louisiana.
Well,
Miami
I feel like
needed
that gave
him
it away.
desperately.
Okay.
So,
So you're the man they call.
well, they didn't call. I was just always there. They knew where to go. It was already like understood. So he comes and I rent a mansion in Miami Beach. I wasn't using mine. So I rent a mansion in Miami Beach.
All right.
It's like $500 a head to get in.
Oh, you threw a crazy banger.
Man, I don't want to compare me to Puffy, but like,
Yeah, maybe don't do that.
yeah, but
Right
like,
now.
you know, the parties, they were above board. They were just wild parties. It was
Like
just a lot.
Gatsby level.
It was just a lot of women, DJs, and it was just wild. You know, like it was nothing to see 15, 20 girls just topless dancing on a table. I'll let your mind go from there. But anyway, so this guy comes in and I could tell, I mean, it's packed. There must be, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 people in the, I don't know. It was a lot of people.
Damn.
It cost me a ton of money, whatever it was.
You probably made money though if you're charging
I wasn't-
$300 a head.
It wasn't
you said?
me. It was the money was going to like my security guys and to pay the broads and like
Yeah.
I wasn't in this thing to,
To make money, yeah.
I was in this thing to make the U
Right.
what it was and keep them relevant. I fought hard. So I'm watching this kid throughout the night. You know, I had other extracurricular activities going on.
Other activities.
Whatever. Yeah. And I wasn't getting
So all
involved.
this was for this kid. I mean, you were probably going to
all
party
this was
regardless.
for a
but-
lot of the recruits that were in that weekend.
So it was a week, like an official visit weekend.
Yeah.
All right, I got you.
Yeah,
But
right.
this is the main guy.
Well, this is like this. He was necessary.
Got you.
You know, he was like a Jeremiah Smith,
Yeah.
Josiah Trader.
That level of talent.
They needed him. They needed to plug a hole. The Francis Magoa of like
Yeah. No, I got
today.
you. Yeah.
Like there's certain guys are keys you got to get.
Yeah.
And so they needed this kid because I think all we had at that time was Sonoris Moss. Ryan Moore had not panned out, and I can't remember exactly. I think Lance Leggett was in there. But anyway, he was a high priority need. And so I don't know if he was with it wasn't his dad, but I think it was like his uncle or his stepdad
Some like
or
family
a cousin,
friend or
but he was a
something.
chaperone for this kid.
Right.
So the party's wild, man. I got just former UM players, current UM players that were in the NFL already, NFL players that didn't even play for the U. It's where you wanted to be. I mean, I wish I was just a customer of the
Right.
party
Right. Instead of the host.
instead of the host. Yeah. And so I'm watching this kid and I'm noticing that this kid's like really not like Miami speed from a sociological standpoint.
That's an interesting way to put it. What do you mean by that?
Like, you know, Miami's wild, man.
So he doesn't like to party, basically.
He's just maybe he's from the country. He's not used to this.
I mean, it's a new environment, especially if you're
It's a fast pace. Yeah,
17,
if you're a young kid. Yeah, no
kid.
no question about it. I'm just saying, like, I don't know how he's gonna make it here. He's not like from this area. Not that you had to be from Miami to love the Miami scene, but I'll tell you who did like the scene was his uncle, because I see him doing shots off women's breasts and going crazy and this and that. So anyway, long night, the whole thing ends. I get a call from one of the assistant coaches in the morning. Man, how did we do? How do we do with so-and-so? It's like 6:30 in the morning, man. I'm like, bzz, bzz. I said, yo, and I don't even want to mention the coach's name. He's like, yo, what happened? I go, I got good news and bad news, man. He goes, well, what? He goes, well, what's the bad news? I go, well, so-and-so, he ain't coming. He's like, fuck, man. What could possibly be the good news? I say, yo, man, if you got an extra scholarship, man, I know I can get his uncle to sign right now.
Yeah, he's ready to go.
His uncle was face down in the mansion.
So you knew the kid didn't want to go just based off the way he acted?
I could just tell. And
did he become a good player?
He ended up going to LSU.
Yeah. A Louisiana guy. Yeah.
And went to the pros.
Oh, okay. So he was good.
He became an NFL guy. I don't believe he ever became a Pro Bowler, but he was an NFL guy. And like, that's just one story of 1,000.
There's dudes at Miami though who don't necessarily embody that.
There are.
That are successful.
No question about it. I'm just using one example of a guy who they had me on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
but you're saying he wouldn't have fit in, you're saying?
You know, certain guys, and I can't speak for what the culture is today. I'm sure it's run very tight. Probably a lot on the heels of my situation and scandal with the U.
Yeah.
It's run, much more hands-on.
Yeah.
But this was going on everywhere, man. You
guys were just the ones that got caught.
We had the best city in the country. Like, I couldn't have
Miami and USC with LA.
I couldn't have done what I did at Alabama.
No, it's
or like
Tuscaloosa,
Georgia, or
no way, Athens,
Ohio State, or Michigan. And I just couldn't have done it.
Those are college towns.
Miami's just a different, man, we were rocking, man.
Yeah.
We were rocking. Like, I'd be out on my jet skis with 15 guys.
Yeah.
Like, picture 6 guys who are in Canton now.
Oh, yeah.
And the rest of them first-round picks. And me. We're on jet skis.
Yeah.
Like, we were a gang.
Right.
On jet skis.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so, I'm older now, so I don't look at things the same way. I cheer for the U. I'm really happy that, they got a guy who really knows what it's about, because it's really about talent. And I got a deep relationship going back with Mario back when. And, I could share some crazy stories, like Randy Shannon. I knew, like, I read the comments. Oh, Shannon.
I don't think you should read the comments, man. That's bad.
I don't mind. It just shows you what people don't know. Like, everyone's like, oh, Randy Shannon hated me. Yeah, because I had his team. They didn't listen to him. They listened to me. He had 5 or 6 policemen working as players on the team. And those guys were never at our parties and stuff, because the players knew they were fucking ratting back to Shannon.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, let me give you a story. That whole Northwestern 8, Randy Shannon got credit for bringing in. Give me the credit. It was my squad. Corey Harris, Sean Spence, Marcus Fortson, Aldarius Johnson. It was Randy Shannon. Clint Hurt was the recruiting coordinator. He deserves the credit. I handled my part of whatever it was. And the best player of that whole team didn't even go to Miami. Levante David, who's still in the league.
Yeah.
He was the 9th guy on that thing.
Damn. So you didn't invite Levante to the party, bro?
Wasn't that. Shannon didn't want to offer him.
Oh, he wasn't offered at all.
No, because he had grade issues and he ended up going to a JUCO. I don't know if it was Butler or whatever, and then he ended up at Nebraska.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he couldn't. Something was there with the grades, but he was that team won the national championship in high school.
It was the #1 team in the country.
Yeah, but they were loaded.
Yeah.
And
I love Jacory. Jacory's an awesome dude.
Yeah, Jacory's a good dude, man. And like, and there was, people don't know what took place with the quarterback situation. Robert Marv, when Shannon became the coach, Miami lost a lot of recruits. Robert Marv, sort of saved Randy Shannon's recruiting class. And Robert Marv didn't get a lot of love from the fans and this and that, but he also had, Shannon just wasn't that offensive guy. And Kyle Wright got the most raw deal of anybody. That kid, who you happen to remind me a lot of, size-wise, he could have easily gone anywhere in the country. He could have easily, man, he was in the backyard of USC when Pete Carroll was running shit.
Oh, he's from LA.
He's from not San Francisco, but North Cali, Pomona, North
Sacramento
Cali.
area?
Down south from there.
Fresno, kind of?
Danville.
Okay.
Danville, California, I think.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
doesn't get a lot of California guys.
No, but when they do, they hit big.
Yeah.
Dorsey, Miramonte.
Oh, Dorsey's from California.
Yeah.
Oh.
Scott Covington.
Brad's from LA, too.
Yeah. So DJ Williams, when they hit big.
Yeah.
Now Mario's got it going because, Mario's a natural recruiter. And Manny Diaz, I could, if we had 10 hours, I'd go through and maybe we'll do another podcast. I don't know. That's going to be up to you. But I'll take the Miami fans where the crash began.
Take them. Let's do it.
The crash began when that 2001 team won. It went on stall. There was so much overload of talent that they were going to go to the title in 2002. The fact we lost to that Ohio State team, I was in my house with William Joseph and Mike Doss. They were now in the league. Mike Doss was the starting safety on that Ohio State team. He's in my house, and he's like, man, I can't fucking believe we beat you guys. This guy, he played for Ohio State, and he's telling me that.
Yeah.
Okay? We're playing pool. He's like, man, I can't believe we beat you guys.
Well, first half, Miami had a bad game. Second half, they balled, and then obviously that pass interference, overtime.
Forget all that, man.
But then
their defensive
who was the quarterback
line,
that year?
Miami's?
Yeah.
Dorsey.
Yeah, Dorsey. But Dorsey missed an open, was it Shockey? Tight end too?
Shockey was already gone.
Or whoever 87 was, that tight end.
Eric Winston,
Yeah.
who was an offensive tackle, by the way. And he went to the league. He became a Pro Bowl tackle.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, he wasn't a tight end. He came from Midland, Texas, I think.
Yeah.
And he was a tight end, but he wasn't.
They could have won in double OT, but.
They should have won the game. Listen, it's obvious what happened, but we should never even have been in a game with those guys. The game should have been way out of hand.
All right.
And
so you're saying when the crash happened, 2001, that team, 2002,
2000 team. So there was still an overflux of guys.
Yeah.
Now we go to that next year. We have 2 losses. We lose at home against Tennessee.
2003.
Yeah, the luster's coming off us.
Yeah.
And we got the Vince Wilforks, the Sean Taylors, the Antrell Rolls, Kellen Winslow, Brock Berlin was the quarterback. Now we're struggling in games. And the real break, Coker, and I don't care. Coker was a gentleman, but I watched that team, that program erode before my eyes. Mm-hmm. And I knew a lot what was going on and what was taking place. And Kyle Wright got the bummest deal of everybody because that kid should have been making $20-something million a year playing quarterback in the NFL. But he had 5 offense coordinators in 4 years.
It's tough.
Patrick Nix was the offensive coordinator. Bo Nix's father. That's who Shannon brought in. And he was his 5th choice. Yeah. He was turned down by 4 other guys. I can go on and on of the moves.
Right.
So 2007, Shannon gets... I knew what Shannon was about. I knew it. I knew Shannon from high school when he played at Norland High.
Who did you want to be the head coach?
So here's...
Because if you were saying you're the CEO in a sense.
Yeah. I'm going to give you...
Were you trying to plug in your own guy?
Well, yeah, I was. And so here's what I was trying to do. So I was very close at that time. I had become very close with, God rest his soul, Paul D. And Donna Shalala we developed a rapport.
Yeah, the AD and the president.
That's right. And then there was another gentleman, I think his name is Sergio Gonzalez or Sergio Rodriguez, was really like he was like the consigliere to President Shalala. So they knew that I was unhappy with the Randy Shannon situation. But what people don't know, because I knew what was going on behind the scenes with Randy Shannon. And there's a lot of stuff that was going on behind the scenes. Sabotaging former coaches in the wrong people's ear. He can say what he wants. I know it's true. Yeah. And he cost a lot of players careers. He was an excellent defense coordinator on that 2001 team. But he was terrible as a head coach.
So question, why didn't you use your leverage and say, again, with the Devin Hester thing, I'm turning off the faucets?
I couldn't.
Unless you do something.
That's a great question. And here's the reason why. President Shalala already in her mind had made up her mind. They were sitting on 2 very bad contracts. There was no money at the University of Miami sports program. You got to understand.
Besides you.
Huh?
Besides you.
Yeah, and that's a bad thing to say. If I was the guy that was financing the program, you got oil tycoons.
Look, you could have probably funded a staff.
Well, and I'll get to that. If this was in today's day and age, I mean, I would have. If I was running this program today with the way the laws are, we wouldn't lose for 10 years. We wouldn't lose for 10 years. A Miami loss would be an absolute.
Just because of the amount you'd be able to pay dudes?
Well, I know I would run it like a business. You got to run this thing like a business. If there are like 50, you have 85 scholarships. So if there's like, let's say there's 45.
Cost per scholarship player, essentially.
Yeah. So if there's like 85, I don't know how many 5-stars there actually are that come out. Like how many 5-stars are there? 25, 30, 35?
Around, I think it's like, 24, 25, something like that.
Okay. We get 80% of them. I'd make sure of it.
Just through straight money, cash.
I'd have every deal worked out.
Just like what, a mil
you'd be
per guy.
You'd be in a rap video here. We do this, we do that. Your marketing deal, doesn't matter. I'd rock and roll. I'm in Miami. I'd make that shit happen.
Yeah.
Period. I was doing it 20 years ago before this.
Before it was open.
Now it's just the Wild West. It's an arms race, right? So
yeah,
I get who we want. I'd have 5-stars coming in as walk-ons because they'd be making as much money.
That's what they're doing now. You saw that Florida just did that.
I didn't even see it, but I'd have 5-stars coming in as walk-ons.
The Cormani
McClain. Yeah.
He's walking on.
Yeah, I mean, like I'd arrange it.
Yeah,
we'd be strapped A to Z. We'd have an NFL offensive line. I'd make it so these kids wouldn't even go to the pros. I'd have their deal set up where they wouldn't even go pro early. We'd get 4 years out of them because the money would be too good.
I don't know how you can. Well, you can enforce it, but you're saying
you wouldn't enforce it. But I mean, listen.
So you'd be like Ruiz on steroids.
Ruiz was a different age than me. I was like these guys, like ally.
No. Yeah. Younger, who's partying with them too.
You know, and now I'm 55, so that situation's not going to happen. But
you get what I'm saying.
Like I forget it. People don't understand. Like there's never been a recruiter like me.
No.
It wasn't just the prostitution, which is like even misuse. I was a facilitator, man. Like it just went deeper than that. You know what I mean? I was a facilitator, but like I had love for that program. I wasn't making money off these kids. And everyone said, well, you owned a sports agency. There's a story behind that too. My partner was the first black GM in the NFL's history, Michael Hugh. The reason I got involved, and that was after I was already behind you, was we were looking to buy the Jacksonville Jaguars. He had the first right of refusal from the owner, Wayne Weaver, at that time. So the whole reason I got involved in sports agency was to be a minority owner. I didn't have the money, but I had the lenders who definitely did. My net worth guys were all 200 million plus for the most part, until at the end, a lot of different guys were coming in. But like I had the backing. I had guys that could actually buy an NFL team, my lenders. And that was the reason why I got involved in the sports agency. It wasn't because I really had some kind of crazy desire to like represent athletes.
When didn't you guys sign like Vince and John Beeson and those guys?
Yeah, and there's stories behind that situation also. You know what I mean? Like I introduced these guys to Michael, but like I didn't.
That wasn't the
It
intention.
wasn't my press job. No, it wasn't. I didn't set out. I set out to just really be involved with the University of Miami program, and anything I could have done to help the cause. That was the whole game plan.
Yeah.
The agency and all that shit. That didn't mean shit. And really, you know whose fault that is? That's the University of Miami. If they didn't do their security check or whatever, their litmus test that they should have run.
I mean, I think they just saw the results, right? They're like, we're getting all these guys. We're winning games, and you know.
I took a lot of flack, unnecessary. All right, I eat it, whatever. You know, I go to bed at night. My bigger concern was like, you know, the victims in my case, which I had, and I can't really get into it, and I'd love to. They weren't my victims. The government made them victims. Nobody would have gotten hurt in my situation. And, well, he's a fucking liar. Listen, there's 5 to 10 people who know what really happened in this world. And when it comes out and it's...
But you're planning on, like, releasing all that information?
Oh, it's coming. Yeah, I'm gonna...
Is this in your book, or...?
No, I have all the receipts. I'm going to be going back to court. I'm gonna do my part.
Yeah.
To get exonerated, not pardoned. Exonerated. There's a big difference.
Right.
Pardons because, well, you know someone you could pay. Exonerated, where the government's gonna have to admit this guy should have never went to prison. Yeah. People could laugh all they want. I don't give a fuck. You know, everybody loved Puffy. Now look, everyone's running from the hills. So, you know, what's glitters isn't always gold. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you know, just the kids have been getting pimped for years, man, and it's about time. Just the NCAA is really, they're not even a kangaroo court. They're a clown fest. They really, they belong dissolved. It should, the NIL, it should be a unionized situation. The NCAA don't got these kids' best interests. And man, they're making zillions of dollars.
Yeah. And
this has been going on, you know what I mean? And everyone's like, well, a scholarship. Yeah, that was cool 40 years ago. That ain't cool today.
No.
You know what I mean?
Well, kids aren't going to class either. So it's like you're not even really getting an education.
Listen, man, they're professionals. Look, the big joke, you know, when I was around, I'm not even going to mention the play. One of the players went pro early, and they go, yo, what makes you saddest about leaving the U? He said, I'm taking a pay cut.
A pay cut? No way. Wait, what round did he go?
First.
He went first round and he was making more in college? No way. Because of you. That's crazy.
You know, like, man, I got
How much were guys getting?
The book's going to be out inevitably. I'm not looking to hurt the U. I'm just telling what it is. It's wild. It's a wild story, man.
Yeah.
It's a wild story. This has been going on forever.
It has. It's been going on everywhere, really.
You know.
Yeah. But you guys just did it louder and bigger.
We did it better than anyone, you know?
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, and everyone's like, well,
until it went down.
Everyone's like, well, Luke was, you know, and I don't want to get into the things. You know, Luke had some things to say about me, and, you know, we
What did Luke say?
Well, Luke was riding me bad verbally when I went away, and he was running for mayor, and I don't want to really hit on that. Luke and I always got along good before that. He spoke out of turn. You know, I let bygones be bygones. You know, we don't got beef at this point. We addressed it to a degree since I got out, and, you know, and I don't take anything away from what his passion was towards this program. It was amazing. And, you know, he was that original dude repping the U, and he gets his flowers for that. He does.
Yeah.
But there's levels. So like what he was doing and what I was doing are just two different things. He was a supportive brother, like blood brother to these kids. And, you know, they looked at him, you know, like, you know, an older brother, you know what I mean? And he always maintained that. And He's done good things, and he should have always been close. He knows what's going on in that inner city of Overtown and Liberty City. He knows what's going on, man.
Yeah.
Me and him used to have shootouts, verbal shootouts,
All right.
like, about like certain players.
Okay.
And me and him had this thing going on, about Robert Marvin. He was on Ja'Cory Harris. Not that I didn't like Ja'Cory, I did, but I just thought Marv was getting a bad hand from the offensive
you wanted
side.
Ja'Cory to play and he wanted Marv?
No, I liked Marv. I didn't think there was anything wrong with Ja'Cory.
Okay.
I just didn't think Marv deserved the criticism and should have been ragged hard the way Shannon was ragging him.
Okay.
But because Ja'Cory was part of that Northwestern team, and I love Ja'Cory. Ja'Cory's a nice kid, man. He was always class act.
Nicest, man.
And he's a class act. Always liked him. I felt so bad he got screwed up in my thing, and I really did, man. And,
You got a game suspension, right? A game?
Yeah, like a game or two, and just he was a good kid. I always liked him, man.
So do you think you would have handled it different?
Yeah, I definitely would have. Yeah, I would have. Yeah, I definitely would have. I can't tell you exactly because, hindsight's 20/20, but I was in a really precocious situation, man. I was defending my life and my credibility in court. And these guys were shooting at me.
You felt like it was the only way out kind of thing.
It wasn't the only way out. It wasn't that. I was defending my credibility because I was making a case for my own credibility. I could have definitely handled it differently, but certain players.
How did it improve your credibility?
Well, because what I was claiming, it wasn't going to help me with my case. That's a misperception. That's not how the government works.
Okay.
Like,
explain it to me because I don't.
Okay, so like, well, first of all, I didn't cooperate with the government. Let's just start there. I pled for 10 years. The prosecutors agreed. They gave me 20.
But this is I'm not talking about the deal with your company, with the scheme. I'm talking about with the players in the NCAA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all right. So what's the specific? What would I have done different?
Yeah.
When they started shooting at me, it was clouding my credibility with regards to my legal case. So even though it wasn't the same lane, the government would use anything. Like, for example, this video was just shown on P. Diddy.
Yeah.
Now, they haven't charged him yet, but I'm giving you a comparative analogy. But the view, just seeing it right away, it changes how you think about him.
Yeah.
Right? So I was going through the similar thing. I was getting just shit thrown in my face and this and that. And my credibility factor was at stake while these kids were saying, oh, this never took place and this and that. But you understand? So so I was protecting my credibility with regards to my own case, fighting for my life.
Yeah.
It wasn't to hurt them. But when they started getting personal and crossing over into my legal defense, now it's personal. Yeah. And I had to stand up for myself. And I wish it didn't go that way. It did. Listen, everyone's got an opinion, but really very few people know the real of that story, of my story. Yeah. It's going to come out, and it's not going to get me my time back. I'm not looking to win friends at the University of Miami.